Hi, I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. I'm the host of the No BS Coaching Advice podcast here on Anchor.fm. If you've always wanted to start a podcast, Anchor makes it ridiculously easy to do it. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. And best of all, it's completely free and ridiculously easy to use. I know I've used two other services. One was very expensive, like $700 a month expensive, until I realized I was getting hosed, and now it costs me much less, but it still costs me. Another service that's inexpensive, but it still costs me. Again, it's 100% free. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. I do no BS coaching advice here, and it is a breeze. I can record on my laptop. I can record live off my phone. Again, very, very easy to use. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. This is the No BS Coaching Advice Podcast, episode 133. I'm your host, Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome. I like to spend some time weekly talking with you about some aspect of life, the universe, and everything. And I'm always curious how a show is going to come together because I don't overproduce this. I just find some things I'd like to talk about that I think will serve you and become a way that I can learn. As I record this, we're at the round of 16 at Wimbledon. And certainly the star has been Coco Gauff, or her real first name is Corey. And there was an interview with her parents I caught part of. And what her dad said was wonderful. And basically what he said was, sometimes parents put limits on a person and their capabilities. Stop for a second. Think, how were limits placed upon you that you're acting through today and haven't reviewed in a long, long time? Like you've been following the orders like a little munchkin, marching along robotically, and still doing the same stuff that you were told to do when you were 4, 5, or 6, 10, 12, whenever it was. You're still operating from that place. Were those limits your parents placed upon you and your ambitions, your goals and ideals, are they serving you today, years later? How are they serving you? How are they not serving you? What can you do to change that? How can you start stretching yourself a little bit so you get more of the life that you want? A man named Nicholas Winton died recently. And if you don't know the name, there's a wonderful BBC show that was recorded, I believe, in the 1990s. Winton's story is that as a young man, he happened to be in an area of Europe that had been occupied by Nazis and realized that a lot of the people there were going to be sent to their death. So he started to find a way to bring children to Britain. He rescued 669 Jewish children at that time. Sorry, I tear up every time I tell this story. 669 Jewish children, got them to England. And as the show is recorded, he kept this secret for 50 some odd years, even from his wife. Never spoke of it at all. Just did what he thought was best. So he's in the audience after having told his wife about this, and the BBC puts on a show with a wonderful scene where the woman who's hosting the show says, first lavishes praise on him for his courage, and then said, has anyone else here been saved by him? Excuse me. The entire audience stands. Winton at one point said, if something's not impossible, there must be a way of doing it. And folks, he died recently at, I believe, 104, 106 years of age. A long, long life. And I'll just simply say, folks, I could be wrong on the age. I apologize. But, we put limits on ourselves or believe the limits that others have been placed on us. And when you stop and think about some of the limits that you've placed and some of the things that you want to do, they're not impossible. They may just be hard, and they may just be inconvenient. And as I've said on the show a number of times, a lifetime is not a long time. We like to think of ourselves as being immortal, but life has a way of showing us how foolish we are to hold those beliefs. How do you want to live between now and that inevitable conclusion to your life? That's your choice. And in wrestling with these hard things that you've made impossible, see if you can roll it back a little bit and just make them hard and start doing the work one bite at a time. And as you start work on some of these ideas of change that you have, if you decide to make those changes, I want to remind you of something that was said in a completely different context. A man named Ben Ferencz, there was a repeat of a show on 60 Minutes about the last living Nuremberg trial prosecutor. And he was able to get convictions of a number of mass murderers. And Ferencz, speaking about the challenges that he faced, and he continues to face, said that it takes courage not to be discouraged. Folks, change isn't always easy. Often there's a price that we need to pay in terms of sacrifice or change that, as I said before, makes it hard, not impossible. Show the courage, and if you have family, demonstrate it to your children so that they develop that muscle too, and encourage it in them. Because, again, you only have a limited amount of time to have the life that you want. Use it well, folks. Use it well. If you know the name Seth Godin, you know that Seth is one of the great marketing people of our time. He was being interviewed for a podcast and said something I had to take note of. The trail that you leave behind, your portfolio, the people who are vouching for you, are the wake of your boat as you zoom through the culture. This is your reputation. Folks, think about what I've said to you in this show. Think about what that wake is that you want to leave behind. What your reputation is, not because you settled, but you stretched and you pushed and you drove yourself for your best so that you gave the world all of yourself instead of just being a 50% person. I think you'll know the difference when you experience it. So that's today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you listen to the show. Just subscribe so you get downloads whenever I release a new episode. Each show is going to be bite-sized morsels of advice just like today's. I hope you enjoyed it, and I do hope you subscribe. And if you do choose to subscribe, I hope you decide to support the show. There's a link that will take you to anchor.fm where you can make a pledge in support of the show. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you're interested in my coaching you, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Mention that you listen to the show. I just happen to like knowing that I'm helping some folks. And once we're connected, message me about your interest in coaching. We'll set up a free call. We'll get acquainted, see if it makes sense. I'll be back soon with more, and in the meantime, I hope you have a great day. Take care.